But anyway,
Let me get clarification on that. So there's times where he was at the home with the baby, but everybody else is gone.
right.
So he's part of the family, really.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't real thrilled with him being in and out of the house by himself. But, you know, that was Casey. You know, a lot of times I thought she was gonna take him over to his mom's house, you know, because once in a great while his mom or his dad would watch Kaylee at the house while they were dating, you know, while they were engaged and stuff. Because they still thought that they were gonna be grandparents potentially and things like that. But a lot of times, you know, he'd be there every night, you know, at the house. And
Can I, and this is gonna be, I don't mean to intrude, but was
That's
there
all
a
right.
riff at the time between Jesse and Casey, or you and Jesse, anything like that?
The only
when he
riff-
found out that it wasn't his child? Was there
no,
any-
absolutely not. In fact, that week, you know, it was,
I'm just trying to determine
She
where
had
the
yeah.
frustration may have come
Right,
from.
no. The frustration between him and I
Yeah.
started that night that he did not respect my wishes, you know, the next day. When
And that's
he,
long after the child's
yeah,
birth?
that was like in May. Up until that, March. Up until that, I mean, it was very, you know, it was a decent relationship. He even came and asked our permission before, and George and I were separated. It was around Christmas time or a couple weeks before Christmas. Asked our permission if he could ask Casey to marry him. And George and I weren't 100%. George always had a little bit of feelings like he wasn't real sure of this kid, but really didn't have an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him. Wasn't really a fan of his father, but just kind of, you know, put up with them because potentially, you know, could be related in, you know, some ways an in-law. His dad kind of like a
Setting the foundation for
loudmouth
future
type.
relations.
Yeah, trying to be good, and if this
Uh-huh.
is what Casey wants, this is what you're gonna do. After I saw, you know, him in a different light, and he was always one that would have an opinion, very strong opinion. If you watched a TV show, he'd have opinion about, you know, what they were talking about. Jesse did. And if you didn't agree with him, he'd kind of like, well, you guys are wrong, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Casey and you know, George and I are kind of in the same way with Lee. We all, you know, if we say our opinion, we all value each other's opinion. No one says, well, you're absolutely wrong, or blah, 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 you know, especially when it's a topic and it's not factual things or whatever.
Can I ask you while you're on that thought process? Because I know the question keeps coming up about the father, the biological father, maybe from being right there at this, and that was something to get to at the end, but is there any conversation that would help us to identify that person so we can answer those questions?
Well, Casey and George and I actually went to an attorney.
Okay.
And had everything in, you know, put in legal will and all that stuff in case something ever happened to Kaylee or Casey. I'm sorry?
Is that Paul?
Paul didn't do it. He sent us to one of his friends that does family law.
Who is that?
You know, I have it in the strong box. I can pull it up. I can't remember his name, but
Did he have like paperwork with the
he has
biological
paperwork of
father's
it.
name?
No, biological father was never documented because it's never on the birth certificate.
Who is that then?
I believe his first name's Eric, and if I heard his last name, I would know it, but I can't remember. It really didn't stand out because from what Casey told me, he had come into town. They were old friends from school. They got together. Eric was going through a tough time. Casey was in between friends, and they just had a one-night stand.
So they're old friends from school?
Yeah.
Like
it's
high
just-
school?
I'm not sure how far back it goes, but she had known him through her high school, and whether or not they went to school, because see, Ryan was one of her best friends, but they didn't go. Yeah, he didn't go to high school with her. He went to Bishop Moore,
Right.
but they went to middle school and elementary school together. But they remained friends.
So Eric wasn't just someone she met, Eric is someone that she went to school with.
Someone that she had known.
This
during
is according to Casey.
This is what she had told me way back when. I mean, this was, you know, when I found out that Jesse wasn't the father, because then I asked,
You
well,
ever
who
meet
else
Eric?
could? No.
Who was
You never met Eric? You never had dinner with him and
Never.
talked over?
No.
Giving up parental rights, you never came by to visit
No.
one night and went to the airport?
He lived out of state, from what she
Right.
said, either Tennessee, Kentucky.
But you're saying you
one
never
of the-
met him?
Never met
You
him.
guys never had dinner with him?
Never.
Hmm.
The thing was, by the time Casey realized when she was pregnant that it wasn't Jesse's because she thought it was Jesse's. Then she knew it had to be one other person, so that had to be, this person, Eric. I think his name was Eric.
So what legal paperwork did the attorney draft? If you
What he
don't-
drew up was, in case something happened to Casey, then custody would be given directly to myself and to George.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with
It
custody
had
from
nothing to
Eric.
do with that, but we also talked about all that, though. He asked us, is the father involved? Do you want to drop anything for alimony, anything like that? We said, no, absolutely not, because he's not on the birth certificate. The guy has no claim to Kate. He never.
So he wouldn't
He
have
never
any
saw-
names that you mentioned at the time that you might not remember the last name now.
We may have given it to attorney. He may have it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that stuff.
That would be wonderful. if
I'll
we
pull
could-
that
we
up
could get
and
that.
see what I have. I have an envelope at the house that has all the paperwork we got from the attorney
Excellent.
for that.
Who, if, let's say tragically something were to happen to you and George and Casey, who was going to be the godparents? Do we know?
You know what? I don't know if we thought that far ahead. I can't remember if we put Lee down or not. We'd have to
Okay.
see. It probably would have been Lee next, if it wouldn't have been.
So we've addressed the issue if something happens to Casey, like almost a,
Like if,
to come to you. You would have.
yes, I would
custody.
have
Okay.
custody, and then I had power of attorney at any point if I needed to, like if, anything would happen. Casey wasn't around, I could do whatever I needed.
So if she, heavens forbid, but a lot of kids do it, dropped the ball miserably and wasn't the good mother that some teenagers can, you had the paperwork drawn up.
That wasn't the reason why we did it. We did it in case something happened to her. Plus also, it was also a statement that there was no other legal person that bound themselves to Kaylee.
Parallel safety net.
Right.
Yep.
And by the time Kaylee was born, this Eric person had already been married, from what Casey had told me. And Casey states that she has kept in contact with Eric's widow. So she knows his.
Who said this?
Casey told me this. She told me a year or so ago that Eric had contacted her and said that there was a potential possibility that he may be moving to Florida at some point, somewhere up around, I can't remember if she said Gainesville, Jacksonville, somewhere up northern Florida, and wanted to get together with her and see if at some point down the road, but when they moved down here, him and his wife, and I guess Kaylee has a half brother, I guess his wife and him had a baby, which is younger than Kaylee. If they could ever maybe just, be friends, and then down the road eventually develop a relationship so that the kids would kind of know each other and realize that they're half brother and sister. And Casey told me, she told him flat out no. And I told her myself, I said, you might want to entertain that idea, because at some point down the road, Kaylee may need to have a half brother, medical reasons or something like that. So, plus, if she ever found out later on that she had a half brother that you said she could never meet, you never know how kids.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I just told her keep an open mind, and she was adamant that no, Mom, I really don't want him in her life. I don't want her getting confused. Blah blah blah. She doesn't know about a daddy. No one ever called daddy.
Did Eric ever try to do the stand-up thing and contact you and say?
No.
Never.
No, it was a
Is
mutual
because
thing.
he was unaware, or because?
No, she states that he was aware right away that they talked about it, but he was already either engaged to be married, and then shortly after was married after Kaylee was born.
Just so we don't get too far off track, you said that Casey was in touch with Eric's widow. How was that?
She got in touch with Casey and told her right after Eric died. Annie knows the exact date when Eric passed away.
Does Annie know who Eric is?
No, but Annie remembers getting a phone call from Casey, and I remember getting a phone call from Casey as well, stating that Eric had died in a car accident. I can't remember when it is. I want to say it was this year, somewhere around Casey's birthday in March, but I can't say. It could have been last year around Kaylee's birthday. It was around the major birthday, either Casey's or Kaylee's birthday.
Tell me about the widow. How did the widow get in touch with Casey?
Casey, she said she called, the widow called Casey and told her. And then Casey actually had an obituary, and believe it or not, I remember seeing the obituary and never paid a bit of attention to the kid's name or anything else, because it was almost like actual closure then. It wasn't a big deal to me, because I already knew we had already taken every precaution that someone couldn't step in later on and say, hey, this is my child, and I'm gonna take him away from
Where
Casey.
did he die? What state?
Again, either Tennessee or Kentucky, one of the northern states, northern.
So, another state.
It was not Florida, it was
Last
not,
name.
and it was not Jose Ortiz. I don't know where the heck that name's coming from that's out in the media right now. Jose Ortiz, I never heard that
What's
name
this? I
before.
haven't heard that.
Yeah, yesterday. I mean, that's all.
I'll explain to you later. We don't need to go over
I don't
it
even
here.
know how that came about. Someone asked who Ortiz.
Sorry about
Jose
that, I don't mean to
Ortiz.
pick a scab, that doesn't need to be waste our time.
I don't
Yeah,
even know where
that's-
that came from. I never heard that name in my entire life, so.
Okay.
Does that help?
I don't know how you veered off the date, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, we're starting to talk about Jesse, and then you talked about paternity and things like that.
Yeah, because I wanted to go into if Jesse was ever over here at the house during this time frame that you can recall.
Jesse had not been to our house that I was aware of since they broke up. The last time I knew Jesse was at the house was sometime in June when they broke up. George and I still were not back together again.
June of,
2000. Oh gosh, we got back together just before Kaylee's second birthday. No, before Kaylee's first birthday. Before Kaylee's first birthday, so 2006. So they were only engaged about 6 months, so it had to be 2006. That was the last time I saw Jesse at the house. It was sometime in June.
Was there, and forgive me for asking this, but
Or
it
they
might be
had-
relevant later. Was there any paperwork for divorce filed between you and George?
Yes, I filed, and then he filed. I actually went down to the clerk of court.
When were those rescinded, or when were those, I guess, voided by you guys, and you guys decided to say, we're not gonna go through this
We
anymore?
never, I don't know if, I think we just let the time lapse. I got served, I think, the 2nd of June, 2nd of, January of 2006. I had gone down to the clerk of courts and picked up all the paperwork, and I actually handed it to him, which you can do without having them served. Well, he took the paperwork that I gave him, took it to an attorney, and had them serve me. Where I was trying to save all this court cost and do all this other stuff, we could have had something done for, what, $400?
But you guys let it lapse, and
Yeah,
So
once
was Jesse there before it lapsed, after, or while this was going on?
Yeah, he was still, I don't think he was there that day. I had actually gone down to Fort Myers to talk to George before I got served, about something, because I had given him the paperwork, and I wanted him to sign
Beginning
it.
of '06 or beginning of '07?
06.
Beginning of
Because we were
06.
back together in '06. Like I said, it was
Okay.
only a few months that we were separated.
Sorry, back to Jesse.
that's okay. This week, I just have questions about from talking to other people. Did George, on the Friday of the 13th, did you guys end up down at ORMC or any other hospital because George had any kind of medical condition?
No,
No hospital visit?
no,
He hasn't had a stroke?
no. That was what Amy told me. No, George has not been in the hospital for a couple of years.
Yeah, because I guess Casey was supposed to go to Jacksonville that day.
That's what Amy told me.
Okay.
To help her pick up her brand new car because her car had gotten totaled. Which is
Right.
funny because Casey told me that Zanny just got a brand new car because her car had gotten totaled.
When did she tell you that?
She told me that, the 3rd week of June. Cause she told me that,
So this is after the 15th.
yep. It was that week after, that Monday after the 15th.
Did you see what happened?
Yeah, she said that they were coming back. This is some of the information that I shared with the FBI and told them to make sure they shared with you because all this stuff did not make any sense to me
Well, where did she tell you this happened?
about Amy. This is when she told me that they were in not Jacksonville, Tampa. Let me see the June calendar and I'll tell you the date.
Come on over.
Because I gave a timeline to Scott Boland for what Casey told me where she was at, where she said she was at when we would call every day. This is June.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is when. Okay, this is the morning George saw. He last saw them about 10 to 1, just before he went to work. Casey and
Okay.
Kaylee leaving like any normal day. She had told me she was going to work, dropping Kaylee off at.
What time did you leave that day for work?
Probably 7:15, 7:20, because that was my early day, I had to be at work by 8, so.
Okay.
Okay, I knew they were in bed that day because the door was shut, so my last physical day that I saw them was the 15th, but I knew they were there the 16th.
But just in the stress of the moment on the 15th over here, you said the 8th because you had other things rolling through
I
your
was
head.
thinking it was associated with me going back to work, not associated with Father's Day. You know how you try to trigger something that might remember? Because I
That's
knew I
exactly
had
what
seen
we're
my
trying to
dad.
do.
I had seen my dad, you know, somewhere around there, and I knew I saw my dad on the 8th. Did not realize it was back to back.
Okay. So you pointed at this for some reason.
Yeah. Casey told me starting here that she was crashing at Zanny's. The 16th, she was crashing at the babysitter's. And then it went to Tuesday crashing at Zanny's because she had an early morning again. And then on the, I know, I won't give me time to write. I gotta look at, I still have time. On the 18th, she told me that.
Casey told you.
Casey told me that Zanny and,
Kaylee.
Zanny and Kaylee and Annabelle. Annabelle was Juliette Lewis's daughter, who was a co-worker. I mean, this is what she told me, was a co-worker, that they were gonna stay at Hard Rock, Hotel, because they had some convention that they had to work on.
Okay.
So they stayed at Hard Rock through the 20th.
Zanny and the baby stayed through the 20th.
Mm-hmm. With both children.
And
Zanny was
where-
watching both children.
Where'd she stay?
Casey was staying at the hotel too. After her meeting, she would go back to the hotel. And that was till the 20th. And then from the 20th, they moved the conference, she said, to Tampa at a hotel. I think she said the Marriott outside of Busch Gardens.
Was Zanny staying at the Hard Rock too?
Yep, watching the girls.
And
while-
Zanny went to Tampa too?
Yep, and,
So who paid for Zanny's room?
Casey said that it was paid for through her work.
Through whose work? Casey's?
Casey's and Juliet's work.
They paid for Zanny's room?
It was Casey's and Juliet's room. Zanny stayed there babysitting
Oh, so
girls.
they stayed through your room plus Zanny's child plus,
Zanny doesn't have a child.
Zanny has no child.
oh, Juliet's child.
Juliet's child.
Okay.
Zanny was there for the babysitter of the two girls while the two adults went to
Okay.
work. It was the situation.
What they
That's
told
she
you.
said. That's what she told me.
Okay.
Now, Casey called me in the morning on Saturday and told me that they were wrapping things up and they would probably be home later that day. But then I got a phone call later that day and said there was one last meeting that they had to go to, so they were gonna come home on Sunday, leave from, Busch Gardens on Sunday, the 22nd.
One last meeting.
Yeah, so they were gonna stay over another night.
Would Casey normally call your phone if you're at work? Like during the week when she's telling you all this? Or would she call
Once-
you at work?
Once in a great while, she may leave me a message at work to call her, but usually she called my cell phone.
Okay, so if she called your work number, it would be to just leave a message or?
Yeah, typically.
Bear with me.
No.
What are your
problem.
numbers?
My work number's 407-629-7992,
629-7.
7992.
Mhm.
It's Gentiva, right?
Yes. And then my cell phone's 407-808-4731.
Okay.
Now, on the 22nd, I talked to her in the morning, she said that, Zanny, actually, I think she said Zanny's roommate, has come in. Raquel, that's right, Raquel was with her. She said Raquel was with her, when they went to Busch Gardens. So that was the 21st. Zanny and her roommate were together.
She called you the 22nd, told you that.
Yeah.
So they were gonna stay at the park for the day?
They
or-
were gonna stay at the park for the day, because Zanny and Raquel had taken, the girls to see the animals at the Busch Gardens and stuff
You ever meet
like that.
Raquel?
No,
You ever meet Juliet?
no, never met Zanny.
Well, we know that.
I know, but I'm just saying, never met them,
What about Jennifer?
no. But she talked about Raquel and Jennifer a long time ago as being Zanny's roommates.
When do they get back?
Well, here's the deal. They ended up staying at the park so that Casey and Juliet could actually enjoy the park too. So all 4 adults and the 2 girls went to the park that day, and then, so they stayed one more night and was on their way back Monday morning on the 23rd.
And where's the accident?
On the 23rd, she
Okay.
said they were just getting off I hadn't heard from Casey all day. She had told me that they were supposed to be home by around noon.
Monday.
Yeah, on Monday. I think at some point I called George and asked if he had heard from Casey or she'd gotten home. I can't remember what time, and he said no. So I think I left Casey a message or two to find out what was going on, because I just wanted to make sure they got back safely. Casey finally called me back, because she didn't call me back all day, and I was a little bit worried and realized she wasn't home. I had a little sick feeling that something wasn't right. So she finally called me back later in the evening, probably after 5:30, because I was already leaving work. And she was apologizing. She says, "Mom, I know I should have called you."
This day?
Yeah, that
A
day.
little after 5:30?
Sometime after 5:30, I'm sure, because it was on my way home from work.
On your cell? Okay.
Yeah, it was on my cell phone, I'm pretty positive. At some point she called me back. I know it wasn't at work. She may have tried to call me at work, but
And what she said? What happened?
she told me that they had gotten to, Raquel and Zanny were about 8 cars ahead of her and Juliet and the girls. Casey had her car, Zanny had their car. So Zanny and Raquel were ahead, and somehow there was an accident, and Casey and Juliet witnessed the accident. So they followed the paramedics to the hospital, and I asked her, I said, was it Tampa General? And she said, yeah. So she said they went to Tampa General Hospital.
They were all at Tampa General
Yeah.
on the 23rd, sometime
Yes.
after 5:30.
Yeah, well, they were there the accident happened in the morning, is what she said. But I found out about it when Casey finally called me back. She apologized to me for not calling her back sooner, but she said they were tied up. She was there in the ER with Zanny and Raquel.
So Zanny was treated
That's
for
what
an
she
injury?
said. Yes, and I
At
think
the
I
Tampa
told you
General?
guys that, to check that out.
Okay, we'll get past that, we'll do it now. I mean, if it was an oversight, we'll just move past.
Yeah, I
Okay.
told someone, if not you, I told Sergeant Allen about it.
All right, well, that's why we're in here,
Right.
all right?
Okay.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, she said that Raquel had a broken arm, and she said that they finally got a hold of Raquel's mom. Raquel's mom was coming from Jacksonville to come down and be with her.
Broken arm, and what kind of injuries did Zanny have?
She said Zanny had a concussion.
Concussion.
And she thought she had put a call into Zanny's sister, and her sister couldn't bring her come up that night, so Casey stayed with her. And I was a little upset with Casey, because I told her, I said, well, where's Kaylee? I said, where's Kaylee? She says, well, Juliet went back to the hotel because it was, just real close. She said they had barely gotten onto the interstate, and I believe she said they had just gotten on 75. So they went back to the hotel. She was able to get back into the hotel, and she was with the girls. Juliet was watching Annabelle and Kate.
So she stayed over due to the accident on the 23rd, she stayed over in Tampa again on the 24th at a
Right.
hotel.
Only she stayed at the hospital with, Casey said
Casey all night at the hospital.
yes. And she had told me, I talked to her the next morning, and she said that there was potential that Zanny was going to be released, that Raquel,
Zanny was an overnighter.
yeah,
Overnight.
well, actually it lasted a little longer, I'll explain.
Okay.
That Raquel's mom was going to take her back to her apartment back in Orlando, Zanny's in Raquel's apartment, and get Raquel seen. And she actually told me that she was going to be seen at Jewett, where I used to work at.
Jewett Orthopedic Clinic?
Yeah.
For a concussion?
No.
Oh, for the
Raquel
broken
for the
arm.
broken shoulder. Yeah, broken arm.
Okay.
Broken shoulder, broken arm?
Well, humerus shoulder, upper arm is what she said, so. Anyway, later on that day, they were gonna release Zanny, but she said they had Zanny started vomiting. She said Zanny
24th.
started blacking out. She was supposed to go home that day, it didn't, but they kept her overnight because she was starting to vomit and have blackouts. So they were working her up a little bit more, and she said they also found that she had a laceration behind her ear. She was real specific. Laceration behind her ear, and they had to give her some stitches. And then,
She had a cut behind their ear that when
Yeah.
they triaged her, they missed.
guess.
And a concussion injury.
Concussion. Well, it sounded like signs of concussion if she was vomiting and blacking out. So they kept her overnight. She also started complaining of some difficulty breathing, and she said that she had a fractured rib and it was pushing on her lung, but didn't puncture the lung.
So Casey was staying in Tampa while
Yes.
Zanny was at the hospital?
Yes.
So she stayed from the 24th to the
Yes,
25th?
she told me that on Wednesday, over here on the 24th, that the sister had come up, Zanny's sister.
She
had
say her
run-
name?
No. I think her name's Stephanie or something like that.
So, but she arrives the 24th.
Yeah, with Zanny's mom. And Zanny's mom, from what Casey's told me over the last several months, has been, in and out of the hospital, hasn't been real well.
Which hospital?
Never told me, never really asked.
So we don't know if it was Miami or Jacksonville?
I would think it would be local, because
Well,
she
we don't
made
know.
it sound like she was local, that Zanny was checking on her periodically.
So it didn't take,
Like Zanny wasn't leaving the town to go see her.
so it wasn't like it took days and days for her to
Right.
get to the hospital.
So what Casey said, that Zanny's sister and her mom had come up to the hospital that day. They thought she was gonna be released, but when Zanny couldn't be released, her sister took her mom back home because she didn't bring her medicines and stuff, and her sister had other things that she had to do. So that's why Casey said that she came home to pick up Zanny's insurance information. And I thought that was kind of weird. I said, well, that stuff could be told over the phone or fax. And she says, well, the sister didn't know where to look at the apartment.
So Casey stayed
So-
from the 24th to the 25th.
But she comes back home to get the insurance paperwork?
She
Sorry,
drove,
Gary, go ahead.
Casey said she drove home on the 25th
Okay.
to get Zanny's insurance paperwork at the apartment. Zanny told her exactly where to go. Casey, she had her key and everything, so she was able to get into the apartment. And I asked her, Zanny's apartment, I asked her, I said, well, why can't Raquel or someone just call it in when they get back? And
Do you know if that's the same apartment that she took me to?
I would assume wherever the Zanny person lives is where she was going to, but I have my suspicions
Please
on
share.
that. Well, let's go with this before I take you off kilter here.
That's even better.
Let's finish this and then I'll take you.
Yeah,
Let me
okay.
finish
So
this.
you see already that I can jump around and get lost easily.
Yes, and I can go
Okay.
jump around and get lost too. I don't want to do that. Train of thought.
Wait, let me finish this one then. She went to the apartment to get the insurance paperwork.
Right, and then she stopped home to grab something, and that's when George saw her.
Oh, at the house.
Yeah,
That was the 25th?
yeah.
You sure about that?
I think it was the 25th.
Was it the same day the report was made to the sheriff's
Because it was
office?
later on that afternoon.
The 25th.
Because George and I had gotten back our, I think we got back that refund check, the stimulus
Mhm.
check. And he and I both had to go to the bank, and he had told me earlier that day that he had made the report about the gas cans.
Mhm.
And that him and I met up at the bank.
Mhm.
And then for some reason, he was gonna go right from the bank to work, and he said he had to go back home for something.
So-
And Casey was at the house.
And to make a long story short, with the gas cans, Casey had taken the gas cans earlier, he confronted her, she gave them back. When could she have taken the gas cans then if she had just come to the house?
I have no clue.
And she was in Tampa.
I don't know. But see, George I don't know. I don't know. The last time he remembers seeing them, we were trying to figure out, was maybe mowing the grass
Right.
somewhere, I don't know.
So with Casey being in Tampa for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Well, first I want to just clarify one thing. The report actually said the 24th, so we're off on a day here right now. But that being said, even
Well, it
4
was
days.
either one of the days, yeah.
So she's in Tampa, how could she get the gas cans?
One of the days she said she came home to pick up the gas cans. After George saw them in the car, she had come to get the gas cans. Whatever day she got the gas cans was the day she was coming to pick up Zanny's insurance information. That she came back to the apartment to pick up the insurance information while she was in
Okay.
town.
So we're not really
She
sure
stopped
on
at
the,
the house.
so we're not really sure on the dates.
Well,
that she-
whichever day George made the report,
Right,
that
but
was the day.
what I'm saying, we're not really sure on the dates of Tampa and the accident.
Well,
everything else.
no, it was the same week. I'm sure that George made the report this week.
Right, he made it on the 24th.
Okay, if that's the day, then that's the day she said she came home and got gas cans. But she told me at one point during that time that she had come home to get Zanny's insurance information.
And then she stopped by your house to get what?
She said, well, she was gonna pick up some clothes, and there was a few of her clothes missing.
Okay. What about the clothes that she took for her trip when she left on the 16th? How much, you said initially to me back that night that she didn't take anything except for a regular diaper bag and
Right.
no other baby clothes.
That I saw. Now, again, if George and I are at work, I don't know if she had access to the house during the day. She could have come in at any point and gone into the house. You know, they weren't Tampa here, so at any point she could have.
Didn't you tell me you had asked her about baby clothes and she told you she bought all new clothes?
Yes, for Kaylee.
Right.
Right.
For this,
But I mean-
for this trip?
She
No,
said,
just-
no. I said that Zanny keeps clothes. She said there's always clothes for, Kaylee at the babysitters. There's always extra
I remember
clothes.
we
But then
specifically-
she said on the weekend that they did go shopping, and Zanny took her shopping and bought more
Because I remember
clothes.
that's one of the things you were worried about, because you asked her,
Right, I know, but.
you know, why didn't she take her clothes? And she told you, well, we don't need the clothes, I bought her all new clothes. Because I remember you told me that night.
Right, on the 21st, they bought clothes, but she told me, because I started asking her about Kaylee's clothes here, she says, Mom, Zanny always has extra outfits and clothes and shoes and things like that at her house.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the week then. We're a little bit off on the
This
days.
is the
but-
first interview that I've ever done with who I'm interviewing standing behind me.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to
Well,
get used to the feeling.
I'm trying to look at the dates, because it's sitting over there, I can't see the calendar.
Okay, I'm
Do
just.
you want me to sit?
Yeah,
I don't want to intimidate you.
No, you're not intimidating me, I'm just getting
Sorry.
used to a new feeling. It's like a new pair of pants, it takes a while to get used
Sorry.
I'm
to.
gonna put this up here only because I don't want you to walk out without it.
Oh, believe me, I won't walk out without my purse. Women don't leave their purses in their
Okay.
cars or other places.
Sometimes it happens.
Not usually. Bottom line is, one of these days, I always thought it was a Wednesday, but whatever day he filed a report.
Mhm.
But I thought the 24th was a Wednesday too, so, anyway. It ended up being, this is the day that they were coming back from, Tampa.
This day here.
The 27th. I remember that because I got a phone call from Casey, in the afternoon. They were going straight back to work. Juliet and her needed to check in because they had been off all week. They had been communicating with, Tom Frank, her, boss at the event coordinating place, and later that, I thought for sure when I get home that they were gonna be home. But I found out later, she said that Jeff was in town. He was at Hard Rock
Jeff's in
Hotel.
town.
Jeff's in town.
Last
was-
name?
Hopkins.
Jeff Hopkins.
Did
The
you
one
s-
that introduced her to Zanny.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see him or meet him that weekend at all?
No,
You just know he was in town because what Casey said?
she said, yes. And she told me Jeff was in town from the 28th until the 30th. And Casey was excited to see him because, they hadn't seen each other since December, somewhere around there, December, the first of the year, when he went to Jacksonville. And Jeff's the one that has Zachary.
You're forgiven.
Jeff, 2.5 years ago, and Kate, right about just before Jesse, I'm gonna tell you how Casey introduced Jeff into our life as a person. Casey was still working at Color Vision or Kodak, and I can't remember when the switch went from one
When
company to the other.
the hostile takeover?
Yeah, it wasn't
Uh-huh.
hostile, but I mean, that really did happen, because I remember I spoke to her bosses then. I mean, I talked to her bosses then. But anyway, Jeff was one of the IT guys, and I remember Jesse, she said Jesse was jealous. And Jesse told me he remembers her talking about some person.
Jesse was jealous, or?
Jesse was jealous. They were still engaged then when she first met Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey and Jeff were friends. Jeff had a child, a son that was almost a year older than Kaylee. And he was dating this person, Zanny, at the time. And the same Jeff, okay? Jeff introduced,
There's so many names in my head right now.
I know, I can imagine. Jeff,
I took you off track. I'm
that's all
sorry.
right. So, I mean, anyway, after Jesse and Casey broke up, in June, probably a couple months later, Jeff and Zanny broke up, and Jeff and Casey started seeing each other, and Jeff and Zanny remained friends. Zanny continued to watch his son Zachary, and Jeff encouraged Casey to let Zanny watch Kaylee as well. Save money, just do whatever. Zanny was doing it, you know, basically as a friend, and Jeff was taking care of all of that.
So though Jeff
And that happened.
Zanny broke up, she still watched both Casey and Jeff's
Yeah,
child.
they remained friends. Zanny started dating someone else, from what she said. And that, Zanny became Kaylee's main primary babysitter, from what Casey said, probably from October, probably around right after Kaylee's first birthday until present time. You know what I'm saying? So this person wasn't made up just a month ago or whatever. But what I'm thinking, I think that Zanny at this point was a real person in the beginning, but I think Zanny is now whoever's watching Kaylee. In my mind,
Transferred the
the
responsibility.
name, yes. So I think she refers to, I believe,
Do you think we're spinning our wheels looking for a
the
Zanny?
Zanny, I'm not sure. But I have two theories, and I'll share that with you.
Mhm.
I think Zanny could either be Amy or Jesse at this point. We're gonna need another hour after we're done to go into, because I only have 20 minutes.
I'm here for 20 more years.
I know, but
And
well, we
hopefully
might
it
have
doesn't
to
take
do
that
it.
long.
We might have to do it because you know we do have to get to that other thing we have to do.
Okay.
But I
Well,
would
real
sit-
quick then on
like
this-
to
on this
sit
thing.
here and finish telling you all this stuff.
Do we, on this week here, this, like the conference week, do you ever get on the phone? I got you,
That's all right.
sorry. Do you remember, see, this is the thing.
I
that's
talk
getting
to her
used to
every
interviewing
day.
this way.
I
get you with my
talk to her
pen.
every day.
Every day you talk to the baby? Or
No,
just?
no,
No?
I didn't. I stopped talking to Kaylee. The last day I talked to Kaylee was the 15th. I did not have a conversation with Kaylee after that. And
What time was the last conversation, you remember?
with Casey,
Mm-hmm. No, with Kaylee.
sometime on the 15th when we put her to
Okay,
bed.
all right.
Now, George had a conversation with her in the morning, because she was there in the morning, had breakfast, did the normal stuff.
No time here though?
Nope, none at all.
Okay.
And that was, every time her and I would talk, that Kaylee wasn't with her or something, you know, there was something going on. That's why I think she's fabricated this whole story, so that she would justify to me why I couldn't talk to Kaylee. Because she knew that if it wasn't a reasonable thing, then I would say, where the hell are you? And I'm coming to pick Kaylee up,
Mhm.
because something's wrong.
Mhm.
So-
Just like if she doesn't come home with the baby that night, you knew she was staying at
Right,
boyfriend.
or if she was, and that's why I think she stayed with Tony during this time, because if she called Annie and stayed with her for a month, Annie would say, where the hell's Kaylee and why aren't you at home? Or any of her close friends. Tony, I believe, is someone, from what I found out now, is someone she just met very recently. So it wouldn't be a red flag to Tony.
Let me ask this. I understand that, and forgive me for asking, because I've been doing so many things this morning. I understand that you guys have somewhere to be this afternoon,
Yes.
right? How much more time do we have here that you feel comfortable with?
Probably 20 minutes. We'd like
Okay.
to leave at 11:30.
Here's what I like to do. I want to focus on just the days that you saw Kaylee. If there are any other days, I don't want to focus.
Nothing.
Okay.
The last day I physically saw her
Okay.
and talked to her was the 15th.
I don't want to focus so much on what she's been telling you, because what I want to do is I want to share some information with you.
Mhm.
Because I feel that what happens is this is like a chalkboard. Your mind's like a chalkboard right now. Everything that's being told you, you're writing down on the chalkboard. But what happens is if what you're writing down on the chalkboard is false, you don't have room for what's actually true.
True,
So
exactly.
what I'm going to do is hopefully help clean some of that chalkboard off
Right.
and provide you with some truth and some factual information that we've confirmed, because then that, in my hope, is going to help you look at this from a different angle.
Right.
Only because my biggest fear is that I don't want you to focus on something that you think is true that
Well, I know
that
none
isn't.
of this is true.
Okay, well,
I mean,
here's.
I know that now it's not true, but at the time I believed it
Sure,
was true.
but here's what I want to kind of focus on. I want to focus on not as much what she's told you, that, you know, like all this, we spent a lot of time on this, but, you know, and apparently you know as well, all this is probably not true. what I'm trying to do is I want to try and show you.
But the
you know,
people she was with may be true.
well, and that's what I want to share with you.
Right.
Okay, because we haven't not only been looking at Zanny, we've been looking at Juliette Lewis, Jeffrey Hopkins, Raquel Farrell, Jennifer Rosa, all these people. We've been researching them extensively.
Juliette Lewis's number is JP's number, who is
Well, hold on a minute.
Ricardo's roommate. I
that's-
mean, these are things
well,
that
hold
are,
on.
we're
That's,
finding out now.
that's what I want to share with you.
Mhm.
Are that I want to try and help you differentiate between what's real and existing and what's not. Because I know there's a lot of things that you might think are real right now that we're finding out are absolutely not real, and people as well. So we're not here to hypothesize on if she says Zanny, she might mean this person, or if she says, or you say this picture was taken at this apartment, but it's this apartment, so we believe one is another. You know, we're not going to focus on that. Okay, I know you know what I'm talking about. That picture you said that was Zanny's apartment, that's Ricardo's apartment.
Right.
And now you're thinking maybe Zanny is Ricardo's something or other.
Or Amy.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of things that you've also said that I need clarification on, because if you're out there saying these things, I need to know why you're saying
Well,
these
I'm not
things.
saying them to anybody but authorities.
slide my
Sure.
phone?
Absolutely.
anyway,
Because I wouldn't
I
do
wanna-
that.
I'll be right back.
I'm not gonna accuse
Okay.
anybody in the public.
Well, here's the thing. There's a couple of things I want to share with you. And I want to show you that we're actually working on this. Contrary to what, if you think that we haven't worked on this, I'm here to tell you, Cindy, from the day, let me finish, let me talk now. I've listened to you talk for a while. I want to be able to share some things with you. I haven't stopped on this. I can tell you right now that about a dozen people are strictly assigned to this, just here. And that doesn't include FDLE or FBI. I know you had to talk to FBI yesterday. I'm sure they told you what their involvement, what their involvement is with this. It was 2 days ago.
Yeah, a couple
So
days
I know they told you what their involvement is in this and what they've been doing to help, right? So you know that this isn't just something that we're kind of passing aside. I haven't worked on anything but this. Every other case I've had, every other person I've had, every other family I've had, I have told, they've been delegated to other people so I can
Right.
focus on this. And I'm not the only one. John's doing the same thing. He's been focusing on this. All the girls in our missing persons unit, the ones that were at your house,
Carrie knows it.
focusing on this. Several other detectives have been pulled from other sections, focusing on this. So we're doing everything possible to try and get answers for you. And here are some of the things I want to share with you. I know that you mentioned Tom Frank, and I actually got an email that was sent to me. It was a forwarded email. Let's see if I can find the forwarded email. And I want to believe it was Lee that actually provided this for us.
Yeah, I gave it to Lee.
Okay.
Because I found it.
Right.
And I told him to give it to you.
Okay. Well, what we did was, obviously we have to follow up on these, and these are very important. So one of the things in this letter was showing that it came from a guy named Tom Frank. Right over here, event director, and his email address. These are great pieces of information that we could use. That person doesn't exist.
Okay.
Never did, never worked for Universal. That is not a valid email address.
Okay.
We've even tried, it doesn't come back. It's not a valid
Okay.
address at all. This person doesn't exist. I also went and I tried to identify some of these other people and saying where they worked. And I remember, I believe it was either Lee or it may even come from yours. I believe it was Lee though. He sent me an email of I guess what you guys had talked about last Friday at the jail, where Juliette Lewis may have worked, where Raquel may have worked. There was saying Raquel worked at TGI Fridays. Juliette Lewis worked at Universal. You even went back to check Casey Anthony at Color Vision, because I know Color Vision took over from Kodak. And the very, very blanket statement, what we found out is Jeff Hopkins, Juliette Lewis never worked for EIS, Event Imaging Solutions, which is the Kodak company that was taken over by Color Vision. So we know that wasn't true. We did a wage and hour check on Casey to see the last time she actually worked, and it shows the first quarter of 2006, which was with, I think, just as Color Vision took over Kodak. We also checked with Color Vision to verify. Let's see, this is Color Vision. Color Vision. And they say that Casey, Jeffrey, Juliette never worked for the Color Vision. And this is coming from their HR director. So what I'm doing is I'm just sharing info, give you I want to try and wipe clean some of the stuff that you think may or may not be true.
Well,
Hold on. Raquel Farrell, worked TGI Fridays, contacted TGI, they actually work for Carlson Restaurants owns them. This is the head recruiting specialist, no record of Raquel. The point I want to just bring to you is that the people that she's saying exist, don't exist. I can tell you also, and I want to share this with you, is that you're saying that, again, we're pretty much on the same sheet that she's not telling you the truth. She's never been to Tampa over June, July. We know that for a fact. Her cell phone records have never left Orange County area.
Right.
She's never been to Jacksonville. Okay, so that.
Well, she was to Jacksonville.
June, July.
Yeah, June,
She's never
July,
been to
right,
Jacksonville.
Right.
So, everything that we've gotten from her, everything that you guys are trying to get from her to help with this, it is still a lie. It's a consistent lie. And the problem that we have is that the more she tries to divert from what we actually need to do, which is find Kaylee, the harder it is to find her. And I guess there were some statements made that concern me on TV, is that you said not too long ago on one of the shows that you know who has Kaylee, but you don't want to say anything because you want to be absolutely sure before you mention this person's name. That was something that you said on the news. What's that
I
about?
don't think I've ever said I was sure, because I'm not sure about.
You said
anything.
you know who has Kaylee, but you're not going to say the name until you're absolutely sure. You said that on the news.
I may have said I have my feelings.
No, you said
Well,
you know who
I'd
has
like to
Kaylee.
see the show.
Well, who is this person that you say you have your feelings?
Well, my number one suspect has been Jesse all along.
We know that Jesse doesn't have Kaylee. Who do you?
You know for a fact.
We
Jesse
know
doesn't.
for a fact Jesse doesn't have Kaylee.
Okay.
Who do you think has Kaylee?
You know someone that Jesse knows doesn't have Kaylee.
I just said, you said Jesse may have Kaylee. I'm telling you Jesse does not have Kaylee. Who else do you
I
think?
think Jesse knows where Kaylee's at.
Okay, I can tell you for almost a fact that I don't think Jesse knows where Kaylee is at.
All right. Then I'm just not sure why he's making up all these, changing his stories.
Well, with all due respect, he's not the only one that's been changing his stories, right? Remember, you had the big thing about the 911 tapes and what you were saying initially, and then you changed your story, right?
What story did I change?
Well, the smell in the car, you're saying it's pizza, making the police come over to the house. You said, I said that just to make them come quicker, whereas that night.
Well, the first
Well,
night.
hold on. It's the same
first
thing
night.
though, you understand that? It's the same thing. And what Jesse says to some people sometimes, and then you're saying he changes his story, that's the same thing that you're doing.
No, I didn't not say that
Cindy.
I heard Kaylee's voice, and then turn around and said that I did hear Kaylee's voice.
We're not talking about, listen,
You
we're
know,
talking,
listen.
we're talking about the same.
It's not the same thing.
Same.
It's not the same thing, because I can explain exactly
There's-
why
there's-
the
well,
911
let me-
calls were different, each time.
Well, let me ask you another one. Another thing that you mentioned, and you mentioned it several times, and you mentioned it in a couple of programs, is that we let the car sit at the house for 2 days.
It was, well,
You know
I'm
that-
counting
whoa, stop.
Tuesday and
No,
Wednesday.
we, police, let the car sit at the house for 2 days? Is that true?
It was there Tuesday night.
Did we let the car sit there for 2 days?
You guys didn't pick it up.
Did we let it sit there for 2 days?
What do you mean that you let it sit there? We called you the same day we got the car.
Right, and when did I pick it up? When did I send someone to pick it up?
Not that, the next day.
Right, so that's
So
not 2 days.
I'm counting Tuesday
That's-
and Wednesday.
That's less than 24 hours, less than
Okay,
24 hours.
all right.
So these are the things that concern me, because what we're trying to do is, we're not
Okay,
trying to.
I'm thinking 2 days in my mind.
Cindy,
Listen,
what we're trying to do,
I-
listen, please.
I lost my granddaughter, okay?
Haley, we're looking for your.
I lost my
Please,
granddaughter.
Cindy, we're looking
I'm
for your
in-
granddaughter.
I-
We're looking for your granddaughter. The problem is,
I-
listen to me. We want to help, okay?
know.
All we want to do is
Okay,
help. But
then-
Cindy, listen, please. I can't help if you go out there and start changing things.
I'm not
and
changing
adding
anything,
things.
okay?
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, okay?
All right.
Listen to me,
You
please,
guys
let
were
me.
so good the first 4 days. You guys were so good at coming to the house and everything, and then it stopped. No one came from missing persons, no one came from anything. We're in the
So,
dark.
what-
So
what-
we're a
what-
grieving family,
Listen.
frustrated as heck, because I didn't even care where Casey was at. I still don't care where Casey's at. All I want is Kaylee back. Do you understand
But
that?
listen to me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us on the same sheet of music.
Well, we
right
should have
now.
been on the same sheet. Remember the first time before I talked to the
Cindy,
media?
I
I
agree.
said,
I agree,
I
but
want to
listen,
know what
listen.
you want me to tell them.
Cindy, you're not listening to me, okay? Please, I've sat here, I've listened to you, we're trying to work with you, but now's the time where I need to tell you, we need to focus. We need to focus on the right thing. We don't need to focus on creating stories, changing testimonies, changing what we said.
I'm not
We
changing
have all.
anything that I've ever said.
We are focusing on trying to find Keely, that's it. That's all, okay?
And I don't want
But
to keep
listen,
hearing
listen,
from
listen,
people
listen.
that you guys think she's dead, because she's not dead.
Have you ever seen me on the news?
No.
Okay, have you ever seen him on the news?
No.
Okay, we're not out there talking to people. My phone won't stop ringing from every news agency to get me to talk about this. I won't. Do you know why? Because I'm working on finding Kaylee.
Oh,
That
not
is-
out of respect for you as well. Listen,
understand
that's why you don't see me.
All you had to do is send one officer, anybody to come talk to us every day.
Cindy, let me talk. I can't, see right now, I can't even.
It doesn't have to be you.
Right now, I can't even talk to you. You're not letting me talk to you.
I'm
watching all
I'm
these
listening
things.
to you. Go
I'm
ahead.
watching all these things that you're doing right now, and it's hurting our case. It's hurting it because people are looking at you, and they're seeing how you're changing these stories, just like you're seeing what Jesse said, and you don't believe him because of it. People are now looking at you and saying the same thing. We don't need that. We need to then look at you and say, this is a strong grandmother who cares about her daughter and who cares about her granddaughter. And not someone who, well, didn't you say this? Well, I meant this. Well, didn't you say this? Well, I meant this. That hurts us. That hurts us because we can't say, listen, I can't stand there in front of a newscast with you and say, everything that you've told so far is the same thing that we have been saying all along. Because I can't say that you've changed it. And that's changing the focus from Kaylee. Our ultimate goal is to find Kaylee. We're going to do everything we can. We've been doing everything we can to find Kaylee. I need you on my side.
I want to be on your side. I told you that from day one. Why do you think George and I let you have free reign?
I understand.
When we tried to give you stuff, no one
Cindy,
wanted to take it.
Cindy.
It just
we need to
seemed
be-
like, from our perspective, all it seemed like from day one, you guys were building a case against Casey as a murderer.
We
She's not a
can't.
murderer.
We
One thing I
can't.
know is she loves that
And
child.
we're not disputing that, Kate. Listen to me. One thing you have to understand in what we do, we can't overlook anything.
I know you
If
can't.
somebody calls us with something, just like, somebody calls us with a tip, if we don't look into that tip, if we don't follow that tip, there's always going to be a what if. Everything that I've done is because of something that I've seen or noticed or something that we have to work on.
That's all
The
I
car,
need was a reassurance from you guys. You
And
guys
that's
are
what we're
following
doing.
up on it.
And that's what
But you're
Cindy,
2.5
listen.
weeks late.
Cindy, we're 6.5 weeks late because.
I understand that, but from
Okay, stop.
my perspective.
Listen, we've been following this from the day I first met you. We haven't stopped.
know.
We have not stopped.
I know.
You know that.
I
okay?
know.
And we're still not going to stop. But I can't overlook certain things that exist. I can't.
I know
because
that.
if I say, let's just say right now that you tell me this person has Kaylee. If I don't go there and talk to that person, I'm not doing my job. If I don't investigate every aspect of this, I'm not doing my job.
But when I get phone calls, listen to me for 1 second. When I get phone calls day after day after day from people that say, we know we saw your granddaughter. We know we saw your granddaughter. No one's following up. No one's following up. And we give you guys the information and we don't get a call back. What the hell do you think we're supposed to think? No one from your department has called us back. You know damn well I called you the day after, the night of the hearing about Wanda at the airport.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you about all these people coming to you, or me coming to you,
I
bringing
know.
your hope up and bringing you down
I know.
again? I can't do that. We have gotten over 500 tips.
I know you guys
over
get a lot
500
of tips.
I can't go and tell each one that calls in with a tip. I can't tell them all how we followed up on it.
I know.
You have a full plate. You guys are focusing on.
Someone could have just said for missing persons, we're following up on the OIA
We're
airport
following
one.
up
I mean,
everything that
someone
comes
could
up.
have said that.
Cindy, we're following up on everything that comes up. Everything that comes up. And I know the FBI guys told you we actually sent FBI to this lady's house and looked at her child. And how she could have been mistaken for Kaylee, I don't know, because they don't look that similar at all. I think what happens is there's a lot.
There's no tape at the
Listen,
airport.
There isn't, you're right. They tape over that. There is no tape.
Right,
Where
I
you heard
heard-
that, I don't know. I'm the horse's
I
mouth.
heard there was
okay?
no tape.
I'm the horse's mouth. I told you that the first night. Once you hear something, if you don't hear from me, it's not true. All right? And what's happening is that all these people out there, most of them are trying to help, but there are people out there that all they want to do is get involved, period.
I know.
Whether they actually, have anything or not, all they want to do is get involved, get their name out there, and hopefully get their picture on the news. All right? Wanda was more concerned about getting her face on the news in hopes that people would recognize her, rather than I'm letting
Really?
you.
Because Wanda
listen,
I never
Cindy,
told her name to anybody but you. I didn't even
I'm
give it to
letting-
Jose till last Friday.
I'm letting you know these things, okay? These people are more interested in getting their 15 minutes of fame than helping you.
Why would she involve her 14-year-old son?
We can't answer that. We can't answer that. But listen, the most important thing right now, and again, I didn't mean to interrupt Eric,
No, I know.
and I understand this is a very important thing, but what I feel is the most important right now, I'm sorry.
It's manhandling me, look at that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
What I
okay.
feel is most important right now is that we have to get on the same sheet of music. We have to work together. And by working together, I need you to stop trying to, and I understand what you want to do is go out there and look for Kaylee, but people are starting to focus their wrong attention on Casey and you because of certain, and listen, these people are professionals. They're going to paint you in a corner.
The
They're going
last
to
2
try.
days since I met with the FBI, I have been telling them that you guys are doing your job. I've been saying that.
And you know the news is going to try to twist everything in
I
order to get the
know.
ratings.
Well, and
They're
I've
gonna
been
try and
challenging
paint-
them to
You-
do responsible reporting and
You
quit
can't do
it.
that. You can't do that.
Wow.
Because you know as well as I.
But
they'll say,
you know,
oh, sure,
but
sure,
you
sure.
know
And
damn
then
well,
they'll report
missing
something
children
else.
don't get media attention after 2 or 3 days. They don't. You have to keep her picture out there so that she can be found. You know that.
I know
You
that.
look at all
But
these
Cindy,
missing children,
what
they
we're-
don't have anybody out there
But
looking
what
for
we're,
them.
but what we're doing is, unfortunately, what you're sometimes doing is you're pulling the attention off. This is a missing, looking for Kaylee, but they're not focusing on Kaylee. They're focusing on you.
I don't want them
They're
on me.
focusing on Casey because of all this crap that's coming out, all these pictures that are coming out. I can't control
2
all
or 3
this.
years ago.
I can't control all this. But because the media's eating this up, what we need to do is we need to keep the media focused on Kaylee. We do not talk about Casey, okay? And if they ask you anything, well, what about this, what about this? Say, we're looking for Kaylee now, period.
Right.
I'm not here to talk about anything I've talked about before.
Well, that's what
We're
I'm
looking
trying to
for
tell
Kaylee
them.
now.
I don't like to answer questions about
But
her.
when you go on Larry King and they put you on the spot, it forces you to say something because obviously you don't want to look bad. And unfortunately, they're professionals at this. They're gonna paint you into a corner.
They're trained to get a
Well,
response
the
out of you.
unfortunate thing is Larry King assured me that I was gonna get time to talk about the efforts we're doing for it. They suck you in on
And
that.
did they?
Oh, of course.
They gave you all the time you wanted to talk about what you guys were doing.
No, they didn't.
So you see how that works?
Mhm.
They pick and choose little portions of what you say.
Oh, I know, and that's what the local media does too, and that's what I said. If they show the whole darn thing, then, things would be painted
So
right.
if people are sitting in their house interested to see how they zing you next, that could be out looking for the baby. You
Well-
see what we're trying to say is there's a lot of
Oh, I
negative time
understand.
getting spent.
That's what I keep telling them, that positive.
We need to focus on forward. We need to stop
I know.
asking stuff about that's already happened.
We've been
focus on
asking
forward.
for you guys to meet with us. We have, for a while.
It's-
Lee
it's-
even said he talked to you
I've been-
last
I've- I've
weekend.
I've talked to Lee a lot.
I know,
I've
but
talked to
George and
a
I,
lot.
but you know what? You guys think I'm some freaking lunatic. I'm not. I'm a grieving grandma that's
We're
looking.
not saying anything
But you
like
and
that.
John quit calling me, quit talking to me.
You know why? Because right after that bond hearing, even before the bond hearing, your relationship with us became adversarial. Because listen.
You blew
because-
it that morning, honey, when you threatened to send a police car to
Cindy,
my dad. You know why I was protecting him.
Information that we need immediately.
But I called Carrie back within a few minutes, or you knew that.
We have to
And
do
have the
a job.
and to have the
Cindy.
prosecutor state that I
Cindy,
would be uncooperative.
We have to do a job. And listen, I've asked you for your credit card records. I asked you for that same morning. Where are they?
There's nothing on there. I already looked at them.
Okay. See, that's the answer I can't have because I know that she has your JCPenney card. I know that she went all over the place with your JCPenney
I
card.
gave Lee my JCPenney
You have to give it to us.
statement
You have
to
give
give
it
to
us.
you.
You have to give it to us.
He said that he was the
Listen,
go-between.
listen.
I know.
This is stuff we need. You can't hold it back because this is how we do our investigation. Now, your personal credit card.
But you guys didn't
listen,
want the
listen.
receipts for the JCPenney
That's
card.
because we get it different ways.
Okay.
Okay? We need to have the whole thing. The receipts, you get to give me a handful of receipts, but I don't know if they're the whole thing. I
Right.
need to have your statement. Okay? So, what other credit cards do you have that she's used? What are the companies? Because we know JCPenney. What about
It's
your
just
bank card?
No, she didn't have either of my bank cards.
Which bank do you have a card at?
Bank of America.
Bank of America and what else?
Bank of America.
Just Bank of America. Is it a Visa or MasterCard?
It's a Visa debit card.
Okay, is that the only other credit card
Yes.
that you have out there aside from JCPenney?
Yes.
You don't have a Dillard's or a Circuit City
No.
or a Best Buy, nothing like that?
No.
Okay.
Target, Walmart.
No, I haven't had a Target. I had a Target card years ago, but I let it
Where's the
expire.
JCPenney card that she was using? I know you took it out of her wallet that
I
night.
have it at home.
Okay.
I
So
have it at home. I took
you
it
still
out of
have
the
it at
wallet that
home.
night and
What
then
about the $200 that was in her wallet that night?
I took it.
Why didn't you tell us anything about it?
I told them. The
Told
girls,
who? Who'd you tell? You didn't tell me. Who'd you tell?
whatever whatever female officer was with us that night, I can't remember her name, when Lee brought back all the stuff, we dumped all the stuff out in the middle of the floor, I showed her all of it.
Okay, unless you told me, I don't know about
I
that.
showed her the credit,
Okay.
but I told you there was a handful of receipts,
Mhm.
cause all the sheriff's
Right.
guys that were out there before were looking at all of them, cause I said, well, we could find times off of these, the times of those. I had those. I offered those up several times and no one wanted them, but I told
And I
her,
explained to you why we didn't want the receipt.
but I said, I'm taking back my credit cards and I said, I'm taking back this money.
Now-
And she,
One more question.
knew that I had it, so whichever female officer was out there that night,
One more question I want to ask you. I want to ask you this. Hopefully, if you can give me an answer. If not, I just want you to think about this. Okay. I know that after the gas can incident, please bear with me. Let me finish. After the gas can incident, Casey borrowed your truck, your green truck.
I'm not aware of that.
George actually saw her, I guess.
He never
maybe
told me that.
Driving down the 408 and asked you, and you said that Casey had borrowed your truck.
I would not have let Casey borrow the truck after the gas can incident.
And would have been like the 25th, because listen.
You know why I wouldn't, no, let me
There's a
tell you
reason,
why
there's a
I
reason, there's a
didn't give
reason.
her permission is because if.
But did she borrow your truck?
I don't know. How could she have borrowed my truck if I had it?
That's what I'm asking. The green truck that you drive, the green SUV, is that the one
The
you drive to
4Runner,
work?
that's the one I drive to work. If I had thought that she had my car anytime during this time, then I would have.
So you're saying that never happened?
Not that I'm
The
aware
reason-
of.
Well, the reason I want to tell you this is that she started calling people and telling people on the 25th? On the 25th, she's sending text messages to her friends saying that George drove her car, the white one. Listen to me. I'm telling you what we're getting, okay?
That's
That
conversations over the phone.
George drove her white car and may have hit something and killed it because the car was starting to stink.
She said there was a squirrel in
And
it.
she started telling these stories from the 25th on. Why? I just want to plant the seed, okay? You don't have to answer me. Why would you do that?
I have no idea.
Why would you try and pass off the smell? Because we all know that there was a smell in the car. I'm not here to dispute what the smell was, okay? We all know there was a very bad smell in the car. Why would she start to say to her friends and text message? We have text message. Why would you want to say, "Hey, I think my dad, hit something with the car," and then later on, let's say, "Yeah, it looks like my dad hit something with the car, and the car stinks."
I have no idea.
And
I have no idea.
I wanted to share that with you.
I have no
Please-
idea.
please go.
And these are the kinds of questions that we have, because this was on the 27th, the text that she sends out. So we look, because listen, if your granddaughter walks through that door right now, we will all tuck our tails between our legs and be glad to do it, okay? But these are the kind of things that we as the profession have to look into and ask the question, why? You read that, correct? So that's, in the squirrel thing, we need to look and see, is that there?
Amy told me that she said something when I was driving Amy from the Florida Mall to the house. Amy offered up something about squirrels in her car. That was the first time.
What was your response to Amy? Did you guys discuss the smell of the car or anything? Not that it really amounts to
Not
anything.
that I recall, not that I recall talking about that. My main focus when I got Amy was
Because I know
telling me where
when Lee beat you back to the house that day, he said, "Oh my goodness," when he went in the garage.
Oh yeah, you could tell.
Ooh.
As soon as we got home, we aired it out. But see, the thing of it was, when George opened the trunk, the guy was with him. That bag, the pizza was in the bag, and it was all closed up. And when he opened because he had to open the bag to see what was in the bag, there was maggots in that pizza in there, and it was bad. I mean, it was really bad.
I'm not gonna sit here and split hairs about that. And
Well,
you
the
deserve
bottom-
better than me doing that.
Bottom line is, though,
With you saying that in this
I mean,
conversation.
but think of it though, I mean, if the car was there from the 27th, and this is fact, because Am Scott reported the car on the 27th, and what day, on the 30th, or it was reported one of these 2 days, I don't know. And then Am Scott, it got towed here. That had to have been closed up in that car for 19 days at least, that bag of stuff.
At least,
At least through till the 15th when we picked up the car. Because if it was abandoned here,
we're not gonna dispute that the
Right.
car was dropped off on the 27th,
And there was
because
pizza.
we've already talked there.
No,
There was
but I'm
pizza,
just
we already
saying,
talked there.
you know.
But listen, we can't dispute the smell with you. I can only tell you that in the over 12 years I've been doing this, you know what I did before coming to missing persons, because that came out in the trial. Okay, I can only tell you what I have sensed before. I know you as a nurse, you've been to the morgue before.
I've smelt
Okay.
dead flesh, I've smelt dead
I'm
bodies,
not-
I've smelt burnt bodies.
And I'm not gonna, we're not gonna go back and forth with this. I'm just gonna know, we're gonna agree to disagree with this, okay? But what you also need to remember, there are different aspects of this that we need to pay attention to. We're focusing on finding Kaylee. I will not come to you and tell you anything but that unless I have definitive proof.
But are you looking for a
Listen.
live Kaylee or dead Kaylee, Gary?
We're looking for Kaylee, Cindy, because we don't know where Kaylee is. And listen, look at this from the outside. I know it's tough. Okay, pretend this isn't your daughter. Pretend Casey is not your daughter. What would you think happened?
I don't know.
Pretend Casey's not your daughter. All the lies, all the inconsistencies, all the stories, all the evidence, all the facts, all the people that don't exist, what do you in your heart believe?
Not knowing Casey, I would probably think the worst.
Okay.
Not knowing Casey and Casey's relationship with